So hi, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great evening. And today, on behalf of Alfa Art Gallery, I would like to welcome everyone to Beyond the Brush, the Contemporary Imagination, our oil and mixed media exhibition. And this is our official virtual exhibition for the gallery. And today, we're going to have the opportunity to play a video that will take you through the exhibition space that was created by one of our photo video interns, Ryan Zabados. So thank you so much for creating the video, Ryan. And on behalf of the gallery, I want to thank Galina Kortev, Veselin Kortev, all our sponsors, our incredible team of interns and staff, and the amazing artists that we have here today. So this will be a great opportunity to celebrate all the work that we've done and to see some amazing works of art. And again, to introduce myself, my name is Kate Perrin, and I'm one of the gallery managers here alongside Lee Chen, who's here today as well, joining all the way from Taiwan. So thank you. I know there's a bit of a time difference. And without further ado, I'm going to play this video. And afterwards, we're going to have Giselle, one of our interns for PR, walk us through the virtual exhibition space. And there will be an opportunity for all the artists here today to talk about their artworks and for everyone to ask questions.
Caridad Sierra Kennedy is a Cuban-American painter crafting abstract landscapes from her home in Hudson County, New Jersey. Her introspective pieces are crafted from a combination of oil paints, watercolors, acrylics, and other mixed media on canvas. The choices in material for each individual piece express the emotionality of Kennedy's artistic concepts. Kennedy's art is intended to be interactive, encouraging the viewer to participate in visual narrative development by making their own sense of her abstract organic forms. Kennedy has applied her creative expertise to her careers as both a fine artist and art therapist. Most recently, her works were featured in Fairmont's gallery, The Exquisite Corpse Show in Jersey City, New Jersey. Christine Seo is a Korean artist who finds her origins in the city of Seoul. She earned a degree in the fine arts from Seoul's Women's University and spent 14 years teaching oil painting, watercolor, and drawing in a fine arts preparatory school for high school students. She describes her primary muses as being floral and equine motifs and discussing horses, particular as being awe-inspiring and elemental to her experience of the world. Her images of horses function as a natural extension of her interfacing with existence as she writes an idea, whether pre-existent or recovered in the process of paint meeting surface, makes analogous the insides worlds of my heart, and experience leading me to the knowledge of myself and the world I live in. Cynthia Pareja Dubbin is a Peruvian artist currently living in New Jersey. Dubbin works in a broad array of digital and traditional mediums to capture her formative inspiration and heritage in Lima and Buenos Aires, alongside her interior world. She began her artistic journey at age 18 as a student of the Universidad de Palermo graphics design program. Since then, she's guided young artists as a professor at the Peruvian Institute of Art and Design and founded a cohort in the Art Students League of New York. Dubbin's work has been featured in several New York City gallery shows and publications. Lately, her work has been selected for residency in the East Orange Manufacturers Village. Deirdre Sheehan is a mixed media artist who explores her subjects by a way of abstraction, simplification, and patterns. Sheehan was raised amongst a community of artists and has been immersed in creative fields her entire life. As a young professional, Sheehan studied drawing and painting at the Artists League while pursuing graphics design at the New School and School of Visual Arts. Much of her recent inspiration originates from her experience of New Orleans. Sheehan has earned awards and acclaim for her work and likewise been featured in many exhibitions, including most recently the West Windsor's Council Juried Member Show. In her work, Sheehan seeks to capture the city's overlooked systems and unknown artifacts.
J. Stephen Patton is a New Jersey-based oil painter and pastel artist whose abstract oil canvases explore the dramatic optical potential of color and linearity, as well as chromatic shapes. Patton's evocative and brilliantly colored oil works appear to reference the subconscious and to prompt an emotional response in viewers. Patton states that, To this day, my painting is rooted in figurative expressionism, as there is always something human found within my compositions, whether it be a figure or a portrait. Beginning his studies in painting at age 14, Patton was influenced by and trained in the methods of both traditional representational painting and neo-impressionist abstraction. Patton's aesthetic practice is influenced by both his training in traditional painting techniques and the techniques of contemporary abstraction, as well as his study of Joseph Albers' color theory. Patton earned a bachelor's degree in fine art from the College of New Jersey, and Patton's work is found in private collections as well as has been exhibited in numerous shows, including the recent 2022 New Jersey Arts Annual Reemergence at the New Jersey State Museum in Trenton, New Jersey, and the 2021 Tewksbury Historical Society Juried Art Exhibition in Tewksbury, New Jersey.
John Gamere is a Pennsylvania-based painter who began his creative career as an architecture student at Columbia University. Gamere has studied art in a variety of academic institutions, including the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, the Philadelphia College of Arts, and the Tyler School of Art. He uses a representational style to explore the light, color, composition, using the medium of painting to construct space. Gamere most enjoys using the medium of painting to explore the geometry of spatial elements, searching for shapes that seem to rhyme or half rhyme, in his words. Kristen Martin Arnio is a New Jersey-based mixed media painter and sculptor who's playfully captivating three-dimensional sculptures and two-dimensional mixed media works enchant and enthrall viewers. Working with a diverse array of materials, including yarn, tape, twigs, paint, fabric, and glitter, Arnio's works are complex studies in texture and color. Arnio says that, looking at the world as a whole, I see systems working together, materials that don't belong together somehow connecting. I see beauty in blending objects and placing them in a setting where they react to each other. Speaking to the ideology behind her aesthetic practice, the artist emphasizes that, as with systems, my work is about throwing objects around, putting items together that speak to and work with one another. I like artwork to be mysterious, not to give you all the answers, to make you think. Arnio earned an Associates of Applied Science and the Medici Award and the Archibald MacLeish Award for Art at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts, as well as earned a Bachelor of Arts from the School of Visual Arts in New York. Her work has been shown in a multitude of exhibitions, including exhibitions at the New Jersey State Museum and the Queens Museum of Art in New York.
Laura Beard is fascinated by birds, animals, and the natural world. She strives to capture the unique charm of fauna and the unflinching beauty of temporary existence in her work. Beard expresses this distinct ephemerality through use of a photorealistic style and the mediums of paint and charcoal. In her oil paintings on view at Alfa Art Gallery, Beard focuses on depicting different animals as her subjects. Beard's mastery of the oil paint technique and her marvelous ability to capture detail is visible in such works as Vision of Home and Paramore. The talented New Jersey-based portrait artist's work has been showcased at the DNR Greenway Land Trust, the John James O. Dubon Center, and the Arts Council of Princeton, and has been featured in numerous exhibitions, including the 2022 group exhibition, Spring into Art, at the Strobe Center Gallery, in Pennington, New Jersey. Mark DeMose is an award-winning Morristown, New Jersey-based artist whose aesthetic practice is defined by his interest in manipulating light and color to capture the essence of any given subject, as well as to capture the beauty of New Jersey and the natural world around him. DeMo's masterful ability to capture the shimmering tonalities of light through oil paint are visible in such works as his Natural Autumn Trees and Blue River on View in Beyond the Bush, the Contemporary Imagination. Demos employs a variety of aesthetic techniques, including plein air painting in his works 9 a.m. Knuth Farm and Light on Ross Farmhouse to create his mesmerizing artworks. Over the years, Demos has studied oil, pastel, and watercolor with various artists, including Gary Godby, Ed Havas, and Frank Zuccarelli. His works have been featured in several magazines and publications and have been exhibited in a multitude of shows across the nation, including at Alfa Art Gallery. Melissa Shanker is a New York City-based artist whose oil paintings appear to plumb the depths of the human subconscious, in which figurative and representational forms collide with abstract symbols. In her works such as Dissolution and The Agony in Waiting on View at Alfa Art Gallery, Shanker juxtaposes figurative forms such as elements of the human body, for example, eyes, hands, etc., against colorful abstract symbols to create art that straddles the threshold between surrealism and realism. Inspired in part by murals and street art, in crafting her vibrantly colored works, Shanker seeks to bridge the gap between street art and fine art. Shanker additionally states that her deeply personal aesthetic practice is inspired by routine, linear relationships, and found objects, and by intense emotions such as love and deep reflective pain. Shanker studied graphic design and painting at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and the University of Southern Indiana, as well as pursued an MFA from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. Shanker has exhibited her work to acclaim both globally and across the nation. Most recently, her paintings were exhibited at the 2022 group show at Yonkers Art Weekend at Riverfront Library in Yonkers, New York, as well as in the 2022 group show Inertia Catharsis, curated by Queen of Hearts Global at One Art Space in New York, and Brassworks Gallery in Portland, Oregon.
Patricia Haynes is a New Jersey-based painter whose beautifully hypnotic canvases engage the viewer's eye, capturing images when a psyche is revealed in seemingly ordinary yet significant moments that are often overlooked or forgotten. For Haynes, painting is a deeply self-expressive and reflective medium in which she states that the finished painting becomes a vehicle for viewers to reflect upon their own lives, inviting viewers to form their own interpretation of her artworks. In order to create her striking abstract visions, Haynes takes multiple photographs of potential subjects. Haynes asserts that the finished painting is about the process of painting as much as it is about the visual concept. Haynes earned a Master's of Fine Arts from Rutgers University and a Bachelor of Arts from Douglas College. She also spent time teaching studio art and art history, as well as held positions in development and institutional advancement at such renowned museums as the Whitney Museum, the Brooklyn Museum, and the Cincinnati Art Museum. Suparna Mondal is an Indian painter and printmaker whose brightly colored, kaleidoscopic, abstract mixed media works of art are inspired by urban life and landscapes. Through her art, Mondal aims to visually capture modernity and the changing world around us. Mondal describes her works as being marvelously kinetic. The paintings are like taking a roller coaster ride through a space station, or are multi-layered symphonies of shades of colors, beams of lights, long sheets of reflecting surfaces, and staccato harmonies. Mondal earned a BFA and MFA in printmaking from Havana, Visa Bharati University in Santikanitan, India, and her work has been exhibited internationally in numerous groups and solo exhibitions. Seo Zhang is a Boston-based artist whose vividly colorful canvases venture into the fascinating world of surrealist abstraction, promoting viewers to contemplate each work and to draw their own interpretation of each piece. Zhang's works often feature muscular human figures that recall the influence of Renaissance paintings and reference his training in traditional figure painting. Zhang states that he repeatedly portrayed figures as the focal point in his paintings, yet he won't define those paintings as portrait paintings. He repeatedly interrogates and exposes figures to the word that he created. His paintings are not answers, but questions. Zhang reveals that the inspiration behind his own aesthetic practice is struggle, whether it happens in reality or in his inner self. Through his art, Zhang hopes that he can communicate with his audience so that he can inspire each other, even help each other. Born and raised in China, Zhang moved to Boston after graduating high school to further his artistic career and to study fine arts at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design. Zhang's work has been showcased in multiple American exhibits, including a 2022 solo exhibition in the sipping room at the Breeze Gallery Tea Shop.
Hi everyone, my name is Giselle Reyes, and now we would like to present a virtual walkthrough of the gallery. So we're going to begin with Patricia Haynes and her piece Letter. Patricia, would you please introduce yourself, your art piece, and the inspiration behind it?
Hi, thank you for having me join you tonight. Can you hear me? Okay. This painting is called Letters, and it's really about someone looking at someone else's letters. It's not her room. She's snooping really on someone else, and she's very, very interested in what she sees. And it's all about voyeurism, and I would say looking into someone else's life and snooping, which I think a lot of people do.
Thank you, Patricia. I would like to open up this time to the floor for any questions or comments.
I have one, Patricia.
Yes.
The way that you paint, there's something very interesting about the texture of it, of kind of the contrast between the very smooth portions and kind of the texture of the wall and the brushstrokes there. Could you talk about that, about how you make those decisions to put different textures into your painting?
It's a very important process, and I think the way in which I apply paint is just as important as the subject. The colors, the way in which I render things. I work in a variety of brushes, and I use the paint really to establish a tempo. And the background is important, but is not as important as the foreground. And so the areas that I think that are more important, that I really want people to pay attention to, because the paint is so different in these areas, is why I apply it so heavily. And as you can see, you really can't see it on a screen here. You have to see these paintings in real life. The texture sort of jumps out to you, and it sort of becomes the personality of the painting. And I feel that it's something that I enjoy doing, but it's also very difficult to do the different textures.
So I'm going to continue moving through Patricia, your works as well, and then we'll continue with the questions.
Okay, Patricia, would you like to introduce this piece as well and give a little background on it as well?
It's called Quest, and I like to work a little bit large, 30 by 40. Most of my paintings are in that area of a size. And this is obviously a man walking, we don't know where, but he's searching for something. And this is a painting that got me started on what I call the war between the foreground and the background. And in my recent paintings, I've been devoting more time to the background, and I'm trying to get backgrounds that are different, that are unique, but yet still evoke the spirit of the concept of the painting. I don't want the backgrounds to be our standard backgrounds, like a house with trees in the background, something like that. And so what I tried to do was to take almost, these very, very different backgrounds that you would never see in real life. The impetus from them came from photos that I took in Yellowstone Park. Of course, every photograph I take changes dramatically once I put it on the canvas. And I just got the idea of a man walking through nowhere, but it's really somewhere. It's nowhere that we know. And where is he going? What is he doing? So my paintings are really gauged to raise questions in the viewer's minds and to have the viewer think more about the action that's going on in the canvas, and really to relate more to it, because we all do things that are different. And I'm trying to jar the imagination and the psyche of the viewers.
Thank you, Patricia. And again, I'd like to open up the floor for any comments or questions.
This is a comment that I have. I really, really love the way that you make the background look like it's almost melting. And I think there's like a really surrealist element to this piece that I love, where this character, this like almost cartoonish, you could say, he's realism to him, but he's also a figure that seems to like reference the background while also being like having this sort of like dreamlike cartoonish element. I really like how you put him in this like really mystical landscape. And that's more of a comment than a question, but we can just continue looking at your pieces. And I think maybe at the end, people can ask questions about all the works at the end, maybe.
Thank you. What I'm trying to do is to get something that's not recognizable, but making people think. And, in a lot of my paintings, I really don't like to tell that much about the paintings. I like people to think about the paintings and relate to them. But here we have a man holding on to something. I like to think it's like a drawing portfolio, and looking out to the world, but not looking out to the world, but clasping onto something. And we don't know what has this awakening for, and what's happened, and what stirred him. But something has gotten to him. And it could be a profound moment in his life, just like our profound moments in other people's lives.
This is just a comment, actually, an observation. I enjoy the way that your attention to the foreground and the figures brings a sense of intimacy for the viewer, which is a nice contrast in the scale. Because I like to work large scale, but when of course, I'm not seeing these in person, but when I look at them, what strikes me is the intimacy that creates for the viewer, begins to create kind of like the visual narrative or story that you might build in your mind, or the questions that you might ask. So it's a kind of one-to-one relationship between the viewer and the character or the figure, however you want to see it. So I enjoy that.
Thank you. That's the objective.
Oh, good. Well, I guess you read it, according to me.
You put it better than I could.
If I could just jump in here. It's interesting for me, like thinking of the title "Awakening." I mean, I don't I don't know the whole story here, but the guy, the character in the painting, I don't know. He looks like he might be a little, I don't know, uptight or something, or whatever. But something is suddenly catching his attention, and I guess that's what I get from the character and the title, and the way he's kind of clutching his briefcase there and looking into space there. It's just kind of strikes me as a reflective moment, I guess, for him. So that's my 2 bits.
Thank you. It is a reflective moment.
Yeah, yeah.
I would also like to add something that is very captivating from my perspective. Is like, as first glance, we don't know who this person is. So I like to make up in my mind what's the story behind him, the expression of his face and where he's looking at and what is he thinking about. He's thinking about the past or the future, or, the strength that he's holding his briefcase and his suit. Makes me think about, what kind of story he has, and it's very intriguing. It's a great work. Congratulations, I really like it. Makes me think a lot.
Thank you. You can create the story.
I like.
Reminds me a little of the work of, this painter George Tucker.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what if you had that in the back of your mind there, but it strikes me that way.
No, I like Tucker. I'm more inclined to like Hopper.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big Hopper fan.
Big Hopper.
Yeah.
And he wants to add something too.
Oh, and also she didn't introduce herself. Cynthia Pareja Dubin, Maxwell Rebla Dubin. Nice to meet you
My
guys.
husband.
I'm the proud husband. She's the artist. I just wanted to say, Patricia, like, you made me think about something I don't usually think about when I look at art, which was like one thing I noticed in all the different artworks was like how clothing is used as almost like a messenger. Like in this one, I almost feel like the awakening and like the anxiety on the gentleman's face is like communicated by the fact that he's wearing a suit, and it's almost like a ruffled suit. Like you can tell it's almost like very performative, and it creates this kind of anxiety in the piece. Like makes me anxious. You know what I mean? I identify with the art, with the protagonist of the painting. And then it was kind of interesting in the previous piece. I noticed in that kind of dreamlike landscape while he was on the quest. It was kind of interesting because kind of like capturing that same idea of that journey or that quest, like being between like a real and surreal landscape. I noticed it was kind of an odd thing to notice, but he's wearing like short pants and long sleeve like sweater. So it's almost like the transitionary like temperature and clothing that he's wearing communicates kind of this transitionary period that he's on this quest, like going from one place to another. And I just thought it was really interesting. You did a great job of like kind of capturing and like distilling like in a word like awakening or like anxiety, or like not anxiety but like a self consciousness, you know what I mean, surrounding the work or whatever. He's clutching kind of a fragility, versus the other previous painting was more of like a wonder. And so I felt like not only did the painting itself and the composition communicate that, but specifically the clothing, which I don't usually like. It doesn't strike me usually in paintings.
Well, thank you. But that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is to get people to think and to really have a relationship with the painting and to bring more of themselves to the painting. Because when you bring yourself to the painting, you really become more of a person. You find out more about yourself. I think that's very important. That's my main objective.
I find it very interesting, the duality of using it as a design as opposed to the meaning and the emotional response. I find the painting just very intriguing in that it is a symmetrical painting, and yet it's very different visually. Yet the structure is composed of horizontals and verticals. The subdivision of the planes in the windows echoes the man's vertical stance and yet horizontal division. I find it just an incredibly intriguing painting.
Thank you. It was hard work.
Yeah, my name is Irene Rousseau.
And nice to meet you, Irene. A lot of thought goes into every painting. And I've often said, I scrape off a lot. I'll put something down if I don't like it and I don't think it's working. I have no problem scraping off even half a painting. And I start over again.
So this is Christine Seo. I'm not sure if she is here with us today, but I would like to introduce her work, and we can just take a moment to look at it. And if you have any questions or comments, we can save it to the end, or you can jump in now. But this is her piece, Jump Landing.
So those were Christine's pieces.
I really like this piece that is right on the screen right now. The position of the horse is also like very interesting because it's, I don't know if it's evoking that the horse is looking to the ground or is this actual sadness from the horse, and the fact that there is like a square surrounding the horse kind of like makes me feel like he's inside of a box or something, or like, and then in the middle there's that circle behind the painting, the white strokes or drippings, kind of like resembles rain or waterfalls or something like that. Very dreamlike, a little bit surreal too. I really like it.
Yeah, I wanted to add that I wish Christine were here just so I could know more about the piece, but the first work shown, yeah, that one, I really like her use of color and the brush strokes. Similar to, as the title, calling it Jump Landing, I feel like I could very much picture that movement happening in that moment. And I just wanted to say, I feel like she captured that amazingly, because I definitely feel like I see like the jockey on the horse and I see the whole movement being done.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in here. Obviously, I'm not Ron Coster. My name is Deirdre Sheehan, but I especially like this painting, and I thought it was a really good decision to make more of the horse and his landing on those feet and sort of cutting the jockey off, making less of him. And, I'm not sure I would have come up with that approach, but I think it's really makes it for a very powerful painting. I like that.
Hi, I just wanted to add that I've seen these paintings in real, like in person, and I just love how well all the paintings are layered. And when you actually see them in person, you can see how all the incredible texture they have to offer. So that's what I loved about them.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions or comments, we can move on to the rest of the video. So this is artist J. Stephen Patton.
I really like the contrast of colors in this piece, as well as the soft edges of the lines that he created. It's true that what he works kind of resembles human shapes. I mean, I don't know if everyone can see that. You can actually see the shapes of like a face, maybe a neck, maybe the magenta part could be a hair. It's, I don't know, I see a lot of femininity there, softness, and also light. And I really like the combination of colors, the turquoise in the bottom, like as well. Very soft and feminine from my perspective. Steve's not here, so tell us the story behind it, but that's what I see from here, and I really, really like this piece.
Also, so Cynthia and I actually got the opportunity to meet Steve at the Manufacturers Village in East Orange while she was a resident at the Liquitex residency program, while she had a studio there. And in addition to being a great artist, I just really, I remember it stuck with me that he said that like he very much like likes his art to represent kind of the like the figurative, like kind of classical approach to kind of like abstract expressionism of like the past, but he likes to apply it to like a modern take, like to modern situations, to kind of make art capture like the current moment in a way that's evocative of like past artistic modes. So figured I'd share that since we know a little bit about Steve. Just happened to meet him.
You know, seeing several of his pieces together really kind of gels in my mind. He kind of straddles the, you know, the worlds of figurative painting and abstract. And I don't pretend to know what they mean or anything, but I just like looking at these shapes and the colors, the amorphous shapes. And I mean, I'm looking at this one now, and at first I thought of it just as a, you know, simply abstract, but I see things that remind me of figures here. And I guess with this first thing, the portrait, I think it was a portrait with yeah, that one, it kind of touches on the idea of a portrait or a figure. I get a good feeling looking at the colors here, and in my view, it looks like he started with the idea of a portrait or a figure, but he transformed it into simply more abstract shapes. And love that purple.
I think that he reminds me, or he evokes images that Milton Avery might have done, the softness of the human figure, and yet it's elongated and distorted. What I think is so intriguing about it is, yes, it has the softness and evokes Milton Avery's use of figurative element, and yet it's so incredibly strong in that it is a claw, it's a grip, it's a wrench holding onto something that's light and effervescent. I find it an incredibly strong painting. And again, I approach things from a design point of view. My background is in design and mathematics and art. So I approach it from a completely different point of view as opposed to an emotional response. Very strong painting. Love it.
I also really love this painting, and I think it like draws you into the center. To me, it almost looks like a cone, like from a certain angle, like where it, sort of, it pulls you in. And I think that's very intentional. And I absolutely love like how he juxtaposes these really like vibrant colors that almost remind me of like the 70s. I don't know if anyone else agrees with this, but like sort of like the like almost like a disco aesthetic, like very like vibrant colors with like soft, like this soft kind of shadowing, and he makes it like makes it a little bit more like you can see like there's like a lot of like depth and emotion to it, like through these interesting like juxtapositions. To me, like the lighter colors around the edges, sort of like that bluish green with that like vibrant like fuchsia color or purple color is really nice.
Okay, our next artist is Caridad Sierra Kennedy.
Yes, I'm Caridad Sierra Kennedy. And this piece in particular is called Meet Me in a Place of Joy. A lot of my work is intuitive and spontaneous. The pieces often become lyrical, not always, but I kind of hear the title in my head as I'm working. And that's sort of the lyrical aspect. I create abstract and imaginary landscapes. I consider myself an expressionist. It's basically an environment where I can reflect, express thoughts and feelings, express contemporary concerns. Sometimes the titles are kind of derived from that or inform the piece. It's a process that's very interactive for me. And for me, like I was very inspired by the modernists, by expressionism, contemporary art, by the interplay between art and the psyche. And that has a lot to do with my background in art therapy or vice versa. Kind of drove me into that study because I saw the connection. As an artist, every artist knows the potential that art has for self-development, self-growth, for understanding our environments, the influence. So for me, it's a place where I can work through all of these elements and bring them together and pull it together to create a space or a place. And I like to work with organic shapes because for me, that's the human element. That is the connection to humanity. Sometimes I'll use symbols that people can readily connect to because they're universal symbols. Sometimes I'll use motifs to describe nature in a very modernist aspect, like this one, for example, where you may pick up on some like leaf motifs or nature. I'm very much pictorially inspired by the natural world around me. So it is about my love for the visual world, but then it's abstracted. So I don't do non-objective abstraction because that's too removed for me. I like the emotional element of art that draws in and sort of meets people in a place of biology, their relationship to the natural world, spirituality. So this particular piece, Meet Me in a Place of Joy, was inspired by sort of a desire to experience joy again, the fatigue of the pandemic for many of us. It was nearing the holidays and we were still in this thing. And it's an expression of my own humanity or wish or desire for people to be able to experience joy again. And I think that for me, I have to say, I don't smile the same way. I don't laugh the same way. You know, I've been affected. We've all been affected. And so it was kind of coming from a place of a wish for humanity, a wish for my own humanity, a wish for everyone. And so I actually exhibited this piece, not physically before, but in a exhibit. It was in an exhibit called Walk By, and it was printed a large poster size. I don't know if it's still there, but it's one of the libraries in Jersey City. And it was actually an exhibition that occurred during the holiday season. The title of the exhibition was Joy. And for me, art is a place of joy. I'm inspired by the things that I have passion for. And regardless of what I may be experiencing, art has the capacity to bring me back to a place of joy. So I guess that was my wish for the viewer, but what they bring or what they think this environment is or how they experience it, that's an invitation. I love hearing from people, oh, this reminds me of that, or this looks like this, and I see this, you know, and they create their own story. And that's part of it, because that's the kind of work that I always admired, was the art that sparked my imagination, that it was the kind of art that I wanted to make and see in the world. So, oh, and this is a mixed media piece. So it's acrylic. Not sure if this one has oil pastel in it. It might have some oil pastel, but mixed media is something that I started using in my work through the years of working as an art therapist, which I would encourage people to use the materials that they felt drawn to help express what they wanted to express. For years, I only worked in oil, acrylic, or watercolor, like strictly, kind of in a purist kind of way. And after years of working as an art therapist, I took my own advice and began using mixed media in my paintings. And I found that in some ways, it's almost like a shortcut to be able to access, because different materials have different textures. You can create line work with different, and that people have, it's a better connection to that emotional sort of emotion psyche link.
Caridad, thank you very much for inviting me to the virtual exhibit. It's wonderful.
Very nice to meet you, Irene.
And I find your painting very joyous. Again, from a formal point of view, from a design point of view, the joy comes around in that they're not rigid, straight, vertical, horizontal lines, but they're playful. They're loops, they're semicircles, they're linear lines that are dancing. It's such a joyous painting, and it's punctuated with the use of joyous colors. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, basically, for me, the materials are there to be able to try and achieve what the message is that you want to achieve. So when someone gets it, or when people get it, that's a joy for me as an artist. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Caridad. I would just wanted to make a comment on your painting, seeing it's very fitting, seeing you have experience as an art therapist. I just really loved the way you described this painting, because as soon as I saw it, also struggling with mental health during this pandemic and like learning new things about myself, I feel as though this is the place that people long for now. If people, I feel like, would be like, if I could be a kid again and feel that sort of joy and see that playful landscape as the world around you, instead of now being a bit more bleak. And I just really liked seeing this painting because I feel like that's the like beautiful, colorful landscape I used to see as a kid.
Oh, well, that makes me happy to hear, especially like in lieu of recent events and the tragedies we're experiencing with the mass shootings. I mean, it's really hard sometimes to find that joy, because there is so much happening around us that is sad and tragic, and there's so much loss. But it's something that we need as human beings. We need to be able to experience joy on a daily basis, even. And when you can't find that place, right, whatever it is for you, it does affect your mental health. For me, it's art, my joy, but also, family, music. I listen to music. I mean, I think most artists do. I think music for me and my work, it plays a different role. I mean, it's really a part of the experience that is so meaningful to me.
Interesting you mentioned music because, okay, so I'm a representational painter, but I love looking at pieces like this, and I can't explain it. I get the feeling of music,
Yeah, my work is very lyrical.
Yeah.
And in this piece in particular, I lost my mother not during the pandemic, but prior to the pandemic. So, honestly, I'm starting to lose track of time. I feel like the days just the years are flowing into each other in a way that I can't even describe. But I believe it was the year before the pandemic, I had lost my mother. And so the holidays, her birthday's in November. And so the holidays are always, if anyone's ever grieved a loved one, the holidays are particularly difficult, right? And it will be 3 years this month that she passed away. So this was last holiday season, and her birthday's in November. So I was also thinking about her. And my mother absolutely loved music. Music was a very big part of my upbringing, being Cuban American. Latin jazz was always playing in the home. American jazz is something that, for me, it was like home, as an art student I won't say the year, but I studied fine art at Rutgers, Newark. And one of the art professors there turned me on to WBGO, the jazz station, broadcasted from Newark. And I was just, that for me was like an immediate connection. And I studied all I could about American jazz. And I realized like jazz in particular, American and Latin jazz, is just a part of my experience in the world. It's a part of my makeup. I almost feel like it's part of my DNA, And so many of my works are lyrical. In fact, and not just jazz, I love a lot of different types of music, but in fact, I have pieces that while I'm working on them, I'm hearing a song in my head even sometimes, and the title is derived from the song. So there is a very lyrical aspect to my work. Thank you for enjoying it, because I think that's the point. It's not about, we can all analyze it and interpret things in different ways. But for me, as an expressionist, it's the feeling that I want to convey. It's the expression. It's what I'm trying to elicit in the viewer, and then they can create their story.
Just a comment. When you said jazz is something you listen to, I really get that jazz feeling from this painting. I don't know what it is, but something about it really, I can imagine that with jazz in the background.
I think it's the movement. There's a lot of movement in my work. It's the movement. It's also how I use color. I think those two elements in some of the pieces probably really point to that kind of lyrical aspect. This piece is called, I think it's On a Precarious Grid of Hope. And basically is a reflection also, because these are all very recent pieces. And this was about coming out, like the reopening period during the pandemic, when the reopening plan was being made in New York City, when we were all kind of coming, and I was just trying to come out to like local art exhibits, and we're all masked up. And it was just this odd feeling of the instability of our situation, in that case, worldwide. but I was thinking about New York City in particular. So there is a grid in this work, which I don't use grids in geometry too much, but there is a loose grid in here to reflect New York City or any city. You know, New York City is just, I've lived across the Hudson River my whole life. And so New York City is like, you know, going in and out of New York City was never even a second thought. But during the pandemic, you know, my family and I did not go in for a long time. And I really missed New York City. And it was just that feeling of instability, chaos, but also a feeling of hope. And in this one, there's more, you know, symbolism with ladders and the grid, this feeling of climbing our way out, this feeling of, you know, up and down. I also, ladders remind me a lot of Moreau, who I love. And so I just wanted to reflect that feeling that I think we were all experiencing.
Hi, Kardad. So like, I just wanted to ask that color is something that I find very interesting in all your pieces. So is there like a process that when it comes to like choosing or making these choices, or is it like just very spontaneous, or if you like plan it beforehand before you make a painting?
I'm looking for who's speaking because you're
Oh,
like your box
I'm
is
Sangati, sorry.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yes, actually color is very important to me. And color choices when I'm working are 100% intuitive.
Okay.
There's no question. But I think my relationship to color in the world, since I was a child, my earliest memory of studying color was like limiting myself to 2 crayons from the crayon box and doing pages and pages of color studies to understand the relationship of those. Like, I remember this, but I think that the immediacy of the decisions is something I enjoy. I want to be in the moment when I'm making my art. I want to be in it. I want to record the experience, because process is very important to me.
Thank you for answering.
Thank you for the question. This piece basically was simply inspired by my relationship to the natural world. It's called Breezy Spring. And I wanted to literally capture that experience of walking through the natural world and experiencing the wind. And it, you know, it can be very windy and breezy in the springtime. And the changing of seasons is something that is really, I mean, I still enjoy enormously. When you're coming out of winter and you're just beginning to experience spring. It's to me, it is the kindest experience. I see and experience the natural world as kind. So this is an expression, in a sense, of my own humanity coupled with my reverence for the natural world and how the interdependency of that. So I think, you know, there's enough organic type imagery where people can see the natural world there, but at the same time, my wish is to transport people to a kind of imaginary space or place that is derived from the natural world, abstracted, but at the same time, it gives them the experience to have their own connection that's unique.
Hi, Gary, this is Maggie. So I just have a question in general. So you're saying that you're also an art therapist. So can you share a little bit more about that? So like, are you like working on a project that connects people from with health and art, or do you actually like work with like individual clients and help them to express themselves through art?
That's a good question. I'm actually at the moment, I have not been doing clinical practice. I do art therapy consulting on a very, very limited basis at this point. I'm primarily focused on my career as a professional artist. I have a bachelor's in fine arts and painting, and a minor in psychology, and I became interested in becoming an art therapist as a way to support myself, basically, as a visual artist. And I was focused on my career as an art therapist for 15 years full-time, working with clients directly in various settings. So basically, board certified art therapists, which really should be the only people saying that they practice art therapy, are people who are trained in psychotherapeutic techniques and counseling techniques, utilizing art and art materials to help clients in various settings with various either mental health issues or even medical issues, to help them basically with coping. And that's what it is. I mean, it's basically, it's therapy using art materials. I became like, when I studied fine arts, this is how I was working. And this is how, when I began to develop my own style and my own voice through painting, I was working in this way, spontaneous, intuitive. I was interested in psychology, the connection between the artist and the viewer, and creating abstract environment. It was the same thing. So I became an art therapist because it made sense to me as an artist.
Thank you for sharing. I just think it's such a interesting thing to like work with art and mental health, because usually people don't really look into like art stuff. Like when it comes to like mental health and stuff, people usually just, they want to like speak out to like have someone to like communicate. And I feel like art is also like a really cool like channel for people to like express themselves.
And I think for me, like personally, having been an artist my whole life, I need a place to put my thoughts and feelings. I need a place to express that. And for me, art has tremendous therapeutic value for the artist, potentially. At least for me, it is that way. So when I found out about art therapy, it made perfect sense to me, because I'm a highly, and although I have developed good verbal skills through education, at the heart of it, I'm a very introverted person, and I connect more on a non-verbal level. Through, you know, does that make sense? Right. So communication on a non-verbal level, I think, is in a visual communication, in a visual sense, is so so powerful, and so is communication in a musical sense, or through any of the arts. I think is so poignant and so powerful, because words often fail us in our experiences.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Okay, we can move on to the next piece. So this is artist Deirdre Sheehan.
So these 4 paintings, or 3 paintings rather, I usually do a series of paintings, and I usually have them going at the same time. I will start a painting from a photograph, a magazine photo that I come across, postcards, any sort of, you know, visual thing I come across that really catches my eye. I will start a painting from that. As to where it ends up or goes, I have no idea. Progress. I use a lot of pencil lately, and I've been using stencils for quite some time, although very sparingly lately. And I have really discovered how much I love black. So black has entered into my paintings a lot. The painting at the bottom was part of another series of paintings I did during the pandemic. I'm fortunate to live in a small little town called Roosevelt, and it's very rural. It's completely surrounded by open fields and Monmouth County Park System. And we also have a trail that cuts right through the center of town. This particular painting, it's called Chairs Along the Trail. It was done from a photograph I took on one of my walks, and I was very surprised where it ended up. It was actually done before I did the 3 paintings of the chairs. And I had so much fun doing it, and I felt so free and unhindered. And I was just really delighted with the result. That was the beginning of this sort of new approach and attitude to my paintings. I've just become a lot freer, and I'm abstracting things further than I ever thought I would. For years have been very representational, delving here and there into abstraction, but for the most part, representational work. So anyway, these 3 paintings were taken from New York Times Magazine spread on kitchens, the floor and the striped paper in the background. And there were just many things about the magazine article and the photos that accompany it that I really loved. And that's basically about it. I find it just to be I've taken a really exciting turn, I think. And it's just, I work a little bit of my process. I will do a sketch, a very light, informal sketch. And then I start to block out colors. And I also I love texture. I will dabble on paint, sometimes with a palette knife, or I'll even take a napkin and dabble that in my palette and just go all over the canvas. I have this process of sort of starting off tight, then getting really loose, coming back in with the pencil, and then, I'll start to tighten it up and I'll start to look for little elements that I like and, accentuate them. So anyway, that's sort of the story about these 4 paintings.
I really appreciate how comforting these set of paintings are. I especially love the title "Soups On." I feel like it fits it perfectly, and it gives me that sense of home, that sense of comfort, where you, like the title, you have soup after like a rainy day and you get to relax. And it gives me that sort of warmth, and I really enjoy it. And I love the use of texture, the different papers, especially love the little like chevron print with the pot in the top right. It all works very well. It's great.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your New York Times article, first of all. And second, I want to say that I really love your geometric compositions. My work, for instance, I try to stay as far as I can from geometric, shapes. It terrifies me, but you have done a wonderful job with your compositions and the different perspectives and juxtaposition of every image and the protagonism of the chairs. I just love how much like the chair symbolizes, I don't know, like it's like the main character, at least from my perspective, and the pattern on the table that is like kind of like unfinished, and the pot and a lovely palette as well. I really, really enjoy your work.
Thank you.
The Soups On is a lovely, lovely painting. It reminds me of Cézanne's painting of the card players, the positioning of the chairs and the table. But instead of cards, we have soup. It's just a lovely, inviting painting. It's an inviting painting.
Okay, thank you.
I really love like the geometric structure of your work, and you can really like see there's a lot of 3-dimensionality to it and like texture, even from the computer screen, like you can really like pick up on that. And I really enjoyed that. So I think the next artist is Melissa Shankar. Is she here?
I don't think so. But we can again go through her artwork, and if there are any questions or comments, you could just leave that towards the end.
Okay, so that's her artwork. Now we can open the floor to questions and comments.
I think these are very strong paintings, and there's a lot going on in them. There's a lot to think about. Very, very strong paintings.
This is Kira. I love the pop art quality of the bold color choices and line design. Like it's just really, really striking.
Yeah, I really love the graphic quality of her artwork. It almost looks like there's like a comic book, like street art element to it. I know like she talked about in her artist statement about how she's influenced very heavily by street art and uses art to kind of bridge that gap. I'm going to move on now to the next artist. Giselle, do you want to?
Oh, hi everyone. Here's Zhang Zhiyao, and I'm an artist for this painting. And I named this painting as Awaken, which is I think one of the most recent oil painting that I made, and I experienced through a quick change my style of oil painting, or like my technique of oil paintings during the beginning of this year. And for this one, I'm using the new technique or new method to do a painting that kind of seems like my old paintings, but in another way. So what I'm trying to express in this painting is, as the title said, is awaken. It's the moment when I wake up every morning, or like when I realized some certain truth from a event, and that like waking up point normally is really painful. It just like symbolically like a thorn stab into the finger. It is like a painful and definitely not like a pleasure experience. And so I just reported this personal feeling by this kind of visual form. And the subject, the figure that I used is from the sculpture of Michelangelo, really not famous, but really intriguing Renaissance sculpture for me. The sculpture's name is The Night. So he's describing the night by a human figure, which is always what I'm trying to do, to describe a experience or describe a emotion by a combination of figure and environment that the figure stays in. And another thing is, this photo is one of the old photos of this painting, because I do a little modify to this painting after I took the photo. So yeah.
I love how your work combines Renaissance sculpture. I'm so sorry, my dog is barking. Renaissance sculpture with like contemporary art, and how you like juxtapose the two. I think it's really interesting. I've never really seen that in this way before. And I really love this piece and the way in which you like crop the piece. So like you're really just focusing on a part of this person's, this figure's body. It just reminds me so much of like Michelangelo. Like I can like see the influence.
I want to echo the part about being able to crop the painting. Both this one and then the other paintings, as we get to them, are really compositionally really engaging to look at and to have your eye move around the frame.
Yeah, thank you. I think when I'm composing a painting, the composition is always like the first thing I'm focused on. And as you see, the cutting of the figure, usually I will keep the whole figure in the painting to let the figure fully interact with the environment, like with the background. And in this particular one, I think in a different way, which I cut figure, just leave the most important, and for me personally, most like striking part of the sculpture to like reinvent the whole thing out. And definitely for me that works. And for me, the composition after this cutting of the figure give it more like a unstable quality and make it more, like shocking. Oh, okay. So this is my second painting of this on this virtual wall, and the name is the Escapes. No, sorry, ecstasy. So this particular word I took from the very famous the Western movie, the Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. They say ecstasy of gold. So which is, in the movie, after everything happened, in the end, how like this notes got resolved and music turns up. And for me, that's like the most important part of like art, which is also, it due to ode to joy, which is the kind of like a carnival like joy, it combined with like happiness, but also at the same time all the filthy and disturbing fact in it. So in this painting, like in the photo, in a lot of my works, I was focused on that. It is a nasty pleasure, which is like a celebrating, but at the same time, I also expressed what we missed in this big carnival, which is those little like a filthy corner, nasty corner that we ignore in this great happiness. And in this painting particularly, it is present by me a set of skeleton, which represents something that decayed or like the death. And in the lower corner is the pheasants, also one of really important subject that I use constantly in my painting. For me, it's just like a peacock, pheasants and peacock is for me like a symbol of like a narcissism, which is a way of how this carnival goes.
I really like that piece. I just wanted to say that before you change to the other one. I love the symbolism of it and the whole composition and the colors that you applied on the rib cage. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, so this is my pretty early work, and I named the version an amusement park. And as like what I said in last one piece, this one is in the like previous collection of my like the whole like ecstasy thing. This one particularly is very beginning of that collection, is where the ideas of this collection comes from. And yeah, for me, because I'm like a really young artist and I didn't have that much like real life experience to, you know, to report in my painting. So I think for me, like my method of painting is reversed. So I made a painting and then from the painting, I get experience. And I'm not saying this is some kind of experience that I can use in my real life, but it is, for me, I think it is it shows the like the great power of the art, which, you know, like we can make. I made a thing out of those fragments of my idea, and then when it composed together, and in the end, I got more from this unite of all these fragments. And it's this painting especially because I randomly took all the fragments, like how the pheasant's hair goes, how the figures goes, and how, you know, people dress up and how the background looks. And it's like a little investigation until the end. When it comes together, it turns out like this carnival quality, this ecstasy, definitely I get. And from that point, I made a rest of the paintings of this collection.
I wanted to say I really loved the painting of Virgin Land Amusement Park. Seeing it in person at the gallery, it's so capturing. I love it. And I especially love the red figure on the left who stands out. And just your use of color and the composition is amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of your work in the future.
Thank you so much. Because like that painting is like the very beginning of how I start to like creating more and more pieces, like more thoughtfully. Okay, so this one I think is the last one for me. Actually, this painting was made before the skeleton one. So there's a little like sequence mess up, but I don't think that matters. I assume you can see the gesture of the figure in the painting and how it interact with the background. And in this one is what I call like the bright side of that great carnival, the ecstasy of whatever we do, like I do, the success. And as you see, like I made the background really like colorful and a lot of contrast happening. And the forefront figure is in a kind of like, you know, like gesture of getting some high or just like a very positive emotion expressed. And yeah, so that's with the last one, that skeleton one compared together is a set, which this one is the bright side of the ecstasy, and that one shows another side that we didn't see from every like happiness moment, which something that decayed or ready to decay.
Okay, moving on to Christine. Is Christine here with us today?
Hi, I'm here. It's Kristen.
I'm sorry, Kristen. Do you want to like explain your work a little bit?
Sure. So these are mixed media sculptures. A lot of my work is about finding materials and putting materials together and seeing how they interact with each other. Sculpture is kind of a new thing for me. I was trained as a painter. All my paintings have dimensional elements to them. So this is the first time that I'm actually creating sculptures. And this one, it's called A Dream Tangled. This was done during the pandemic, and it kind of was using materials that were just laying around my house and just building something and seeing where it went. The materials are like toothpicks and leftover fabric and yarn, glue. My work is just playful. That's all I have for this one. Yeah, like again, this is called the Enchanted Elephant. It's the same process. I wanted to bring in an animal into my work and kind of build it in kind of a whimsical way. Like this elephant is covered in feathers and yarn. Also taking things out of the trash, like there's red packaging thread on top. So kind of upcycling too, kind of a whimsical, playful sculpture. This one's called The Flood. Some of my work is about climate change, and just the blue on the bottom is actually plastic bags and me painting plastic bags. I'm worried about, water rising. And so I kind of immersed this house in this kind of a plastic bag water situation. This one's called Twisted Nature. I'm using yarn and fabric and kind of making twigs. And there's also dried flowers, tree bark, and just taking synthetic elements and putting them together with natural elements and just making a pretty thing is what this one was about. Yeah, this is similar, like using materials kind of found, packaging that you throw away, like there's netting from veggie packaging, and then there's plastic pieces in this. There's also cut up Christmas lights that don't work, and just a lot of things that I wanted to throw away and put them in this piece, and I called it Vivid Star Space Trash.
I got into movie move on to your paintings. I do think it's super interesting in that you can totally tell that you are a painter from your sculptures, because there's such a detail to the colors in which way that they lay next to one another, and the color relationships between the individual pieces that make the sculpture. It's really fun to look at.
Thank you. This one is called I Don't or Want to Remember. This is an older painting. There's an elephant in this picture, thinking about like how elephants have good memories, and this picture is from past paintings. Like I actually glued past paintings, like memories from past paintings onto this piece and just painted on it. This one is The Horse Won't Save Us. This is again about like climate change, and I kind of put like two environments against one another. One is like kind of a nice pretty lake with a tree and a horse. The other side is kind of an environment falling apart. This is called Fires Everywhere. This was about like forest fires and how they're becoming like uncontrollable, but kind of painted in a pretty way. And there's still some mixed media elements, like there's fabric, discarded fabric in this with glitter. There's also plastic pieces in this. So that's my work.
It's more evident in this picture, just the glowing aspect of it and the way that you use color to make those, like you said, the fire does look really pretty, even though it's this terrible environmental thing that's very scary. But I think all three of the paintings have this wonderful, where they're very busy and there's a lot going on with them, but the way that they're compositionally balanced, they never feel like they're too busy on the eye. Like everything is very incredibly pleasing to look at. I really like them.
Yeah, like I always feel like I'm making things, like I'm thinking about terrible things and then I'm painting them pretty.
Cynthia here with us today?
Yes, I'm here. Navegando en mí is one of the first pieces from one of my newest series of this year. This year, actually, I wanted to start a new series of collages. So I created Los Colores de la Tristeza, which is a series of collages My work is mostly pieces of paper that I create when I, first of all, what I do to create any pieces, I choose the colors that I want to blend, first of all, and then what I do is with a brush, I create backgrounds with a lot of texture. Then I let them dry. I mostly work with watercolor arches paper, which it has a lot of texture, and the heavy grain. I love the tactile feeling, the texture of that paper. So what I do is I create several of those backgrounds, and then after that, with a pencil, I softly create shapes of different sizes, and I try to use as much of the paper as I can to avoid any waste. And after that, what I do is I move on to canvas. I start creating a background also of different blends of colors in the canvas piece. So after that, what I do is I use a palette knife to layer other types of colors that to my eye, they seem to blend well together, especially according to my personal narrative, that it's what I want to convey. I really like the book. One of my favorite books when I was studying in college was concerning the spiritual in art by Vasily Kandinsky, which is maybe helped me a lot of moving forward to convey. I have this inner necessity that I'm always trying to create visually. I think that my body is just a tool. So what I create is mostly what I feel more attached to than my whole human self. So yeah, moving on to that piece, what I do is I work with different mediums, as well as I was telling, the paper dries, and then I start cutting them into several pieces. I cut several structures and forms and shapes, and I have several white walls, and I start beginning to build a structure. And the structure might take several days for me to start, looking the way that I want to. And as soon as I visually like the whole, structure of it, is when I start assembling these pieces onto the canvas. So what I use is this gel medium, this matte gel medium that is an adhesive. I can also use glue. I used to use silicone, the glue gun, but that doesn't work too much because the glue sometimes doesn't adhere the pieces that well. So I have found out that the Liquitex gel works really great when it comes to assembling, and adhering the pieces. It dries wonderfully. So once the pieces are are assembled with each other, I juxtapose each of them. Every one of them is very relevant for me. There is not a single piece that is not irrelevant, everything has a protagonist, and to me, everything is there for a reason. And so, yeah, I also use gold leaf that I love how it, it has this texture, and I love the tactile feeling that you want to touch it. I have a lot of friends and guests from other exhibitions that as soon as they see my pieces, they want to touch it, they want to ask because it has some sort of multi-dimensional effect. And yeah, moving on to the whole concept of los colores de la tristeza, which means, I don't know if I said it before, sorry, I'm not very good at talking in public, means the colors of sorrow or the colors of sadness. We also started, my family, we started this year grieving. We lost 2 important members of our family, and I wasn't expecting, at the beginning of the year as well, of course, we were not expecting to lose these people in our lives, but at the same time, I had parallelly this idea of creating a new series, and I was not expecting that actually sorrow was going to actually help me so much into just flow so easily into these compositions and intricate details. So Tempestad is the one that you see, the biggest piece over there. That took me several months to create, because you will have to see it in person, because the bottom part that has several circular shapes and textures. It's a blend of different materials that I used. I used gold leaf, watercolor paper, fabric, and paint markers and ink. And I also wrote, I used to do that more in the past, but I like to write phrases or words that, for me, once you start writing, they kind of like mean something, but at the same time, the shape of the actual typography or font that I create becomes a shape as well. So yeah, el brillo perpetuo, that word that's a phrase that you can see there, means it's like an eternal sunshine or brightness. I don't know. It's like I started like developing this piece, and throughout the whole process of development, I started realizing that actually what I was creating, it was my brain. It was like part of my internal self. But you know, the human brain is so complex, and there are so many intricate areas, and emotions are blended as well. So I you know, throughout the whole process, I realized that I think I was trying to convey my parts of my brain into it. And yeah, so the middle part that is yellow, is a little bit blurry here. It's a lot of layered pieces of gold leaf, and the whole on the top, it's several layered with palette knives. What I do is like I blend several turquoises and blues, and Talosianin blue is in the main background. That's the first background that I created, which is my favorite color. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of blues there, magentas here and there. And so yeah, that's Tempestad. That piece, let me see if I can pull out. Témpanos. Témpanos means icicles in Spanish. I wanted to create something a little bit cooler and more structured. Of course, you can see a little bit of chaos too, but it's the piece is actually floating in an environment of like peaceness, like that turquoise, that very light turquoise. I wanted to create a very clean, like when you stare at the sky on a cloudless day, and the air is really clean, and you just wanna, like, you know, have a beautiful day, but at the same time, like I wanted to create that contrast of like intricate details here and there, and like organic pieces. Actually, this piece has a lot of old artworks that I had unfinished. Like I work a lot with the studies and, you know, lines and drawings, and I love doing that because these unfinished pieces help me to create, like, as they're part of my assembling process when I create collages. They're very important for me. So yeah. Vienen del fuego means they come from fire. I wanted to create something that, for instance, this black background that you see here is not only black. I blended several colors. For instance, I blended Mars block, heavy body, Talosianin blue, deep turquoise ink, and purple. I blended all of them, and as much as I blended them, the Mars black always was predominant. But no matter what, I wanted to create a blend of different colors because the darkness was resembling my interiority. It's like inside of me, there's an infinite like space, kind of like when you see outside this space out there, it's kind of like dark, there's no sun. It's like beings are being like floating, you know. And at the end, I blended with a gloss medium. The gloss medium is what creates a lot of shine into the acrylic. So when you have the chance to see it in person, you will see like from different, how light bounces into it is very shiny. So Vienen de Fuego is also like a resemblance of about ashes or things that are like burnt with fire, almost like, I don't know, it's like a very interior, like, I'm sorry, it's difficult for me to explain sometimes when it comes to the moment of developing these very personal narrative moments. But as you can see, I like to work a lot with very thin lines that don't look absolutely perfect, and playing with fonts here and there. And I love the magenta and the pinks, and how they contrast with the yellow to make a big impact. But I guess the whole composition is very imperfect for me. I know throughout my work process that I am able to develop other like more perfected type of structures, but I just like to do it like that because that's how I feel I am. I am nowhere near perfect, and I think I have a whole life ahead of me that it's when it's going to eventually, going to where I will create something better. So that's where I am right now.
I think your work is absolutely beautiful, and I really enjoy like the like almost like the neon pink color. It looks to me like super vibrant pink color with like the blues mixed with the gold. And to me, it almost has like a, you can see in like the collage element, like it has like almost like a mosaic quality. It looks like it could be like a modern take on like stained glass.
Yeah. Thank you.
Keep working. You're only going to get better.
Thank you.
Hi, Cynthia. I say that while I read your artist notes, I was very excited to hear that you were from Peru, as my family is also Peruvian. And I wanted to know if and how you feel that Peruvian culture has influenced some of your collages, because I know personally when I think of Peru, I think of the colorful textiles and homes. So I feel like to me that is conveyed through your use of color, but I wanted to know if there was any other inspiration you get.
Yeah, well, I have been painting for about like 15 years or more, but my work has heavily changed throughout the years. So at the beginning, I used to paint a lot of like home comes like animals. I grew up surrounded by like a lot of birds and bunnies. So at the beginning, I started experimenting with oils, and I didn't find it I was not too good at it. Maybe I need to practice more with that. But one thing that is very relevant for me as a Peruvian artist, female artist, is that I unfortunately Peruvian female artists maybe are not that well known worldwide, and nowadays there's still a larger artists that are more well known that are male. I mean, from the perspective that I know, like I haven't been in Peru in a long time. I left Peru when I was 18. So but yeah, I mean, now and then I see all of these artists that are very well recognized, and believe me, 85, 90% of them are male. They are wonderful artists, but one thing that as a Peruvian female, I feel like that I have the it's like a necessity, not a necessity. It's like I'm sorry, it's difficult for me sometimes when I'm talking in public to find the right words. As a film artist, I want to convey my work as much as I can, like and be recognized as who I am and the work that I am creating nowadays. And yeah, it's great to be in the United States and being able to be respected for my work. But when I was living in South America, because I also lived in Argentina, female artists, I mean, it's very difficult to climb up and be respected. Sometimes you are not. I mean, that's my perspective. Maybe some other people will think differently. But yeah, I mean, it has pushed me to fight us and work really hard, in my work. And I will say that will be like how being Peruvian has influenced me in my work.
Great, thank you for answering my questions.
I'd also say like having had a chance to see some of the Peruvian artists like
Mhm.
in Lima and in different areas of Peru. Like you can definitely see, like for example, a huge influence of Cynthia's is Jose Tola, like a really amazing but male artist. And then like Tempestad, for example, there's some of like kind of the shadowiness and fogginess and smoky textures of like a Fernando de Cislo, but who's another great Peruvian artist, but again, male artist. So there's definitely a lot of like great inspiration that came out of artistic movements in Peru, but she's trying to go her own way and kind of carve her own route, which
Yeah,
I
and
think is a cool
another
thing, especially because she got the chance to teach in
yeah, I
kind
was
of
able
inspire other
to
artists.
teach in Lima for a short period of time in graphic design. And it was a great opportunity. It was a great experience. I met so many wonderful aspiring artists and graphic designers. But one thing is like there's this society is still, well, I'm talking about something that was a long time ago. Maybe is changing now, and I hope so that it's changing. People are too immersed into their bubbles, and they don't want to move forward. They think they worry too much about what others are thinking about themselves, and frankly, one thing that makes me move forward with my work too is like I don't care right now what people think of my work. I just want to show what is currently happening with me. Maybe eventually my work will evolve, and I'm looking forward for evolution, but there's so much, like stigma, like some people don't understand abstract work. Some people think it's childish, but it takes a lot of work to convey emotions and intangible feelings from a personal narrative. So that's another thing that I wanted to add from the Peruvian inspiration.
Okay,
Hi,
thank you.
Cynthia. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jennifer. Were you done?
Yeah, it's fine. I was just saying thank you for answering the question.
No. Hi, Cynthia. I wanted to say first of all, your perspective on women artists and their struggle in Peru, because that is primarily your experience, exists very much in the United States and continues to as well. I mean, in more recent years, museums, in very recent years actually, are making an effort to purchase artwork from living female artists, or even showing female artists like Hilma af Klint, if you know her work.
Yeah, I know Hilma.
Yeah.
Got the book around here.
Yeah. I mean, if you went to see that exhibit and you say she was, Kandinsky's, yeah, right. But speaking of Kandinsky and concerning the spiritual and art,
oh my gosh,
I just recently reread this. So we have that in common, because spirituality is a very important driving force for me in my work as well, although I didn't speak about it tonight. Yes, so continue to do the work you're driven to do. Like you said, it's a need, it's a drive. Don't worry about people's opinions of abstraction versus figuration. Been there. Just make your work and that's fine. So anyway, I enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing it in person, because I get the sense that all of the textural elements that you're describing in the paper and Gold Leaf, for example, I'm viewing it in a very graphic form right now. And graphically, the colors and everything look very beautiful, but I imagine in person, those textural elements that you're describing probably hit the mark with, at least for me, possibly for the viewer, in that connection to the more spiritual and kind of psyche that you're describing, that is part of the inspiration of the work. So hopefully I'll get to see it and meet you in person as well when there's an in-person reception.
Looking forward for it. Thank you so much for all your words. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just want to put a quick reminder out that we only have, I think, 15 minutes left. So I think we're just going to go through the work of John. I think he we had to go, but I think the last couple artists actually aren't here right now, so we're just going to appreciate their works and maybe at the end, hopefully have time for some comments. So this is John Gumer's work. And then Laura Beard. Mark Demos. Suparna Mondal.